Hi, I'm Steve Lynagh. In late 2010, Apple loosened restrictions on third-party development tools for iOS applications. This was big news for Flash developers because it meant all of a sudden their content could become available on iPads and iPhones through Adobe Air. In this video on new technology, I'll be stepping through the process of developing an interactive children's book in Adobe Flash Professional on a Windows PC and publishing to iPad via Adobe Air for iOS. It's a process which has a number of obstacles for the unwary, but at the end of the day, it's not really that difficult, and it's actually quite rewarding when you see your work finally on your device. First, a little bit about me and why I'm interested in the subject. I have a broad interest in the creative industries with an animation and illustration background, and I've become interested in coding in the last 18 months. While still studying, I'd like to get to know a process that means I can make something fun and interesting, and who knows, maybe even make some money from it one day. I've got a little girl too, and so I'd like to make something for her, something special. So she'll be starring in her own app titled Mim's Peekaboo. So let's talk about Adobe Air. Air stands for Adobe Integrated Runtime. It's an application that lets you deploy Flash-based content as well as HTML, CSS and JavaScript across a wide range of platforms. Air is related to Adobe's Flash Player, which is a browser plugin, and they are both referred to as Flash runtimes. The major difference is that Air doesn't need a browser to run because it's a standalone application. The benefit of that is that it gives developers a platform to deploy applications across multiple operating systems using just basic web languages that they are familiar with. Adobe Air runs on Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, BlackBerry tablets, and that's pretty much all your bases covered. So that brings me to the development of my app. I got the idea of a peekaboo story from a friend who'd studied creative writing. The next step was to develop a storyboard involving different animals who'd be hiding in the scene. Each page would be a new scene and a new animal. I set about creating some assets. These started out as pencil sketches. I made some animal sketches and Mim the main character. Then I scanned the sketches into Photoshop and tidied them up a little. I imported the Mim sketch into Illustrator and used the pen tool to give her outlines that nice clean vector look. I used the Live Paint tool to add some colour, and all of this is of course possible purely in Flash, but I feel Illustrator's art capabilities are more advanced than Flash, and you can get a better outcome. Adobe has also made the workflow between applications very smooth. For instance, you can convert your artwork to a movie clip symbol here in Illustrator, and even prepare it for 9-slice scaling, purely for the purpose of exporting to Flash when you're done. It's really down to personal preference how you do it. Anyway, once that was done, I imported my characters into Flash and added some basic animations to the timeline to create a splash page. I wrote some ActionScript code and added some interactivity. On mobiles and tablets, The user, of course, doesn't have a mouse as everything is touch-based. ActionScript 3 includes support for touch events and gestures, including click and drag, long tap, two-finger tap, pinch zoom, pan, rotate, and swipe. I needed to test the entire process through to the publishing onto the iPad, so I'd done enough that it was time to make my first test onto a device. I knew there were quite a few hoops to jump through with the Apple development process, so I was ready to begin sorting all that out. The Apple developer website is very clear and easy to follow instructions every step of the way. The thing is, all those instructions assume you are on a Mac and are using Xcode to develop your app, so things are a little trickier on Windows and Flash, but here's how to do it. First, you need to apply to the Apple developer program. Once you've been admitted, you need to apply for a developer certificate. This step requires you to submit a certificate signing request, a file which is easily generated on a Mac. On Windows, however, you need to download and install OpenSSL and Microsoft Visual C++. Then you use the command line interface to generate a key file, then the certificate signing request file, to then go and upload to the Apple developer site. Once the request file has been sent, after a while the developer certificate will be available for download. Now you're a certified iOS developer, so it's time to create an app ID for your app, register your device's UDID code, and create a provisioning profile which ties your developer certificate, app ID, and device together. But there's still more. Flash needs something called a P12 certificate to publish to iOS. So it's back to the command line to convert the developer certificate that you've downloaded into something called a PEM file, and then convert that PEM file finally into a P12 file. Once you have the P12 file, it's time to relax because the final step has recently become easier. Apple used to require developers to go through iTunes to test their products, but thanks to a recent update to CS6, you can now publish straight from Flash to iPad. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching, and if you're interested in doing something similar, it's worth noting that once you overcome those technical hurdles and get all your developer files together and working, it's fairly plain sailing. And the great thing about Air is that with a few minor tweaks, your iOS app becomes a native Android or desktop app, even a rich internet application with Flash Player. I'm Steve Lynagh. Thanks for listening. Now I'm off to finish my app.